Just like Lay Toucan, Lay Opinion has arrived. This is going to be a long video where we break down everything you need to know about this character. What's good, what's bad, what's meta, what's not, what you do, what you don't do, etc. We're going to fully break him down in depth. I hope you learned something and enjoy this video on your second monitor while you play your game. I would like to start by saying I have a very unique perspective on this class. I was like cryogenically frozen like the guy in Demo Man when this character came out. So I missed all of the bugged out, like overpowered stuff, and they didn't thaw my ass out to come save John Connor or whatever until after all the nerfs and all the bug fixes. Which leaves me in a very unique position where I have absolutely no preconceived notion of the class other than how it is right now and will be going forward, whereas pretty much absolutely everyone else in the community has the perception of him being super OP and whatever. Well, I can honestly say I genuinely don't think he's the best class in the game, or even really that overpowered. Which I know to some people, they're going to absolutely lose their shit hearing that and think it's like the dumbest thing they've ever heard in their lives, whatever. I would ask that you bear with me on this one, because the other classes have been nothing but buffed and he's been nothing but nerfed. And I think once we start making direct one-to-one numbers comparisons with things the other classes do, I think you'll start seeing it my way a little bit on this one. That, yeah, he's really not that big of a problem. Okay, so let's start with the talent tree. No Escape is surprisingly good and shockingly underrated. 10% damage on this character is inconsequential and meaningless. He just gets so much damage later in the tree it doesn't matter. However, 10% movement speed is really nice. This is your sprinting movement speed without it. And this is your sprinting movement speed with it. Also, you can do this, where you let the dog proc it while you're retreating, and it's a very sizable increase, especially to your sliding. So, it's just nice. I don't know how else to put it. It's not bad at all. Withering Fire, though, is pretty terrible. So, as you can see, we do about 10k without it procced, and with it procced. I don't want to respawn all the enemies because I have some setups for later talents. You know, this is the problem, right? With shotguns, it's a little awkward. You're not ever going to get the full value in the first place unless you try to do something like this. But you're already killing them without this. This is really the issue. 15% damage isn't enough. But, you know, it's just not enough. Veteran gets away with this kind of stuff because if this was a veteran node, it would just be 15% damage to ranged and melee. And he has the plasma gun, which is the best goddamn gun in the game. However, something to note is that the shells... If you see on my left there, the buffs are really generous. So if you do decide to use this, that is one thing that's nice. I really would not recommend using it though, especially not with magazine-based weapons. Revolvers and shotguns only for this one. Hammer of Judgment though is very good. 10% melee attack speed for 3 seconds on hitting 3 or more enemies with a melee attack. Now, to address some comments I got before, I know this node was bugged when I talked about it in the meta video, but I'd like to point out it's not bugged anymore. As you can see, it very, very clearly works. It's just you need push attacks or heavy attacks to always proc it. So, I don't know what to tell you if you still think it doesn't work, other than works on my machine, TM. You know, slap the sticker on it, works on my machine. This is where I'd like for you to really bear with me. Razor Jaw Augment is terrible. And this is one of those nodes. This is where we can see who's open-minded and willing to listen to things and who is, like, closed-minded and just doesn't want to be convinced that they might, you know, things might have changed. Because this node used to be unbelievably broken. However, on its face, it's really kind of terrible. So, 6 bleed stacks. Why is that not good? Bleed is amazing, right? Well, as you can see, 6 bleed stacks doesn't really matter when you pounce on the enemy, and it's not even half of the HP of these shitty guys. And if we go to Poxwalkers over here, you can see it's like not even really a full... Okay, it's basically a third of their HP. And if we go to like Specialists and Elites, you can see that it's just not impactful at all. Sorry, that guy's health bar was broken. But if we go to, like, Elites over here, you can see it's just not impactful. Snipers are like the weakest elite specialist thing in the game, and they barely even are affected by this. So it's not good at dealing with trash in any capacity. It does nothing for your DPS against priority targets. And now that it can't be comboed with anything else on the tree, there is literally no reason to take this. This is one of the weakest nodes in the entire arbites tree. Yet I still see people, when they recommend dog builds, say you need to take this. That is absolutely a relic of the past. I just proved beyond a shadow of a doubt to you. Because the thing is, arbites doesn't have bleed synergy. He doesn't have anything else that really stacks bleed very effectively. He doesn't have, like, uncanny to bump up the dots damage in any meaningful capacity. He just isn't a dot-focused character. If you're gonna take a dot passive for your dog, it should absolutely be this one. But we'll talk about that later. Target neutralized is okay. Replenish 10% toughness instantly and 10% over 4 seconds on elite specialist kill. This works exactly like the veteran talent, where it stacks and you get a bunch of them rolling at the same time. I don't know what else to say. It's good, it's strong, but it's not strong enough. And you don't really have leftover points like that to spend on vanity stuff like this. Up close is absolutely ridiculous. This is legitimately Out for Blood, just better. So watch this. Come on, dude. Come on. Okay, now watch this shit right here. Just boom. 1 attack and 100 toughness. That is ridiculous. Like, I don't think I need to say anything else to show you that this one singular toughness talent, it's just Out for Blood. And Out for Blood is the single best toughness talent in the entire game. Legitimately, this one node would be enough to make arbites in, like, contention for the best toughness tank character. Like, he would be going toe-to-toe with, like, veteran on the toughness restore front. But then they also gave him this. Replenish 10% of toughness on staggering with a melee attack. Now, I don't have any talent points invested here, but look at this. Check this shit out, okay? This is just regular-ass arbites. And he's generating like 30-40% with no cleave talent, no impact talent, no stagger node. So Force of Will is like anywhere from like 20 to 40% toughness back every melee attack. Up close, you're going to get 3 to 4 kills when fighting a horde always with melee, no matter what. So this is going to be like anywhere from 10 to like upwards of 20% on every attack. These two together can give you anywhere from like 30 on the lowest end to like 70 on the highest end toughness back every attack, which with his attack speed gets really out of hand. Retaliatory Force is okay. Gain 15% reduced block cost. This is like not even as good as a single Curio roll. Who cares? On perfect block. Oh, so it's not even as good. It's like a Curio roll with a very tricky condition that might get you killed trying to proc it. Okay, let's read the rest of it. Gain 15% damage. Okay, well, I guess we're just going to pretend that basically everything down here doesn't also say 15% damage. Literally, I just scrolled between like 5 of them in a row. And 15% attack speed. That is nice. Though I will say this character, even without this, reaches an attack speed amount where you quite literally need a macro to actually use it. Just regular normal builds without retaliatory force reach an attack speed so high that unless you're going to give yourself carpal tunnel clicking like legitimately 3 or 4 times every second, you like physically can't keep up with the attack speed bonuses. So if you're going to add this on top of that, you need to click like 5 times a second. Seriously, Fat Shark, please give us an automatic attack macro that attacks at full speed. Seriously. I can't play this game for like... I can only play this game for like 2 hours max without the macro mod that lets me swing at full speed for free. My wrist cramps, it hurts, I can't do it. But with that mod, I can play literally for as long as I want. Seriously, this class is emblematic of this problem. Man and Cyber Mastiff. So this is another area where I'm going to catch some flack. I don't actually think this node is very good. And I think it makes sense if you hear me out. So the actual effect is very good. The problem is, what do you actually want the Cyber Mastiff for? To deal with things like bombers that you can't deal with, to deal with things like gunners, to stop trappers before they enter the team. The problem is, literally all that stuff stops it from activating. So, as you can see, let's say we want to stop a bomber. You need to be this close. When are you this close to a bomber? And if you are ever this close to a bomber, when are you not just smacking them with melee and instantly killing him? Did you see that guy's weird-ass skull face? Skull emoji, Sorry. It's just like, the things you actually want to use the dog for are antithetical to getting use out of this node. When it's active, it's pretty good. Constant toughness replenishment is pretty strong. The problem is, if this is active, you're not using the Cyber Mastiff to its full potential. If this isn't active, why are you using it? So it's just anti-synergy with optimally using the dog. I don't think it's bad. Ever since Bound by Duty, I don't think you're stupid for taking just about anything in the game anymore. The patch really kind of smoothed all that shit over. But I do think you're not caring about playing optimally if you take this, which is not a problem or a bad thing necessarily. I just think for the purposes of a meta discussion, this node is really not good. Every time I've tried it, its uptime is either really high and my dog's damage is really low, or my dog's damage is really high and this thing's uptime is really low. That's kind of the catch-22. Walk it off is really good. Spending 1 stamina replenishes 10% toughness over 3 seconds. Well, that's like 40% toughness I got back for doing nothing. And then you consider that his optimal, like, horde clear is push attack, heavy, heavy, which gives you your stamina back. So you just endlessly loop stamina spent. You just do stamina spend, attack, attack, re-spend the stamina you just gained, 3 attacks, etc. You can be behind cover getting shot by a gunner, just doing shit like this, like, caveman, like Grug, getting your toughness back. Very good. They nerfed this by 5% and it didn't change anything. Shield plates, on block, replenish 15% toughness over 3 seconds. That's actually a good idea, and I really wish they would have gone all in on this. Block needs some help in this game from Vermintide to this game. Block has kind of fallen off. I don't think perfect block is the answer. I think perfect block should just be a mechanic every weapon has all the time. Like, just give us the ability to parry crusher overheads, please. Frankly, I think perfect block should just be a thing. And I think all block nodes should do a thing and then give a perfect block bonus, which is just the bonus amplified, which is exactly what this is. Replenish 15% toughness over 3 seconds on block is an incredibly good condition. And then instantly getting 10% back, this is 25% back as opposed to this 10. This is just a much easier activation condition. And I don't really know what else you would change. Honestly, though, if I can be honest with you for a second, I actually really like this passive. Whenever I was testing it out before recording this, I was like, damn, it's not hard, especially with how much you're weaving in push attacks, to just snag one little block every like 5 to 6 seconds. And that 15% toughness is pretty good. I think the stamina one is still better because it's more consistent, but I would not say this is a node you should completely ignore. I wouldn't say that about pretty much anything in this top tree, except for Razor Jaw and Withering Fire. I think everything up here honestly has merits that are pretty valid. You want an example of why Withering Fire is bad? 10% range damage all the time for everything with no conditionals. That's just a regular operative modifier. This is a full-on regular passive, and it's only 5% more damage on a timer after meeting a condition. Does this not make this look kind of terrible? You know? I think it does. Okay, let's talk the blitzes. Remote detonation is good. Let's see if I can show this off here. But there's a big problem with it, and I personally despise remote detonation. It's good. It does respectable damage to the things you care about. It stuns bosses, which is incredibly useful. It regens on its own, which again, incredibly useful. The problem is you really have no idea of where it's going to blow up. I'm holding my grenade button right now. As you saw, I let it go and it activated. And you just have no idea of what it will and won't hit. So that's problem number one. Problem number two, why can't I just click Z? Why can't I, or whatever your grenade button is, why doesn't this work like click the grenade button and it goes where you're pointing? Or hold the grenade button or double tap it or something and it just blows up in place. The fact that you can't just be like, press a button, it goes to where, it jumps to where you point and then blows up, really kills this Blitz for me. I personally despise using this Blitz. Getting optimal value off of it is borderline fucking impossible. The best use case for it is tell the dog to attack the boss, blow it up on the boss to stun it, and then when the boss comes out of the stun, blow it up again on it to stun it, and then maybe do the same thing for like a Crusher pack. It's not bad. I will say this. It is objectively worse than Shock Mines in every possible way, other than the fact that it stuns bosses and Shock Mines don't. Now, I personally don't view that one upside as worth all the downsides, and the fact you get one less of them, and the fact that you can't pick up grenades with this when you have perhaps the best grenade in the game with Shock Mines. I think Shock Mines really do eat this thing's lunch pretty badly. Speaking of Shock Mines, I think this is the one thing on Arbiter that is truly, irrefutably overpowered. So, Shock Mines, the way this works, I'm sure you all know, but, you know, it's somebody that's watching this first time seeing it. You throw these down, and then for 15 seconds, you effectively have a bubble of invincibility, where nothing other than gunners, bombers, and bosses can hurt you or move. These also, with Lone Wolf, come back for free. I mean, look, it's still going. This is basically Smite, but it doesn't stop you while it's active, which is everything people complain about with Smite. Well, okay, it's everything that the not toxic people complain about with Smite, which, just as an aside, my beef with Smite has always been that it's incredibly boring to play with, not that it's like, oh, bro, it's so easy. Ugh. I think that's a very toxic mindset to care about the easiness or difficulty of what your teammates are running and then to flame them for it. Also, major fuck you if you're one of those people that's like, I'm not going to revive you if you play this thing I don't like. Please get a life. Anyway, Shock Mines are really overpowered because of Lone Wolf. This allows you to every 60 seconds get a Shock Mine, which, again, what the fuck? The whole point of this is that every 50 seconds you get it for free. Well, 60 seconds and 50 seconds are pretty damn close, and Shock Mine, I'd argue, is objectively better than the Explosion, because the Explosion, you can only control where it goes if there's an elite in the crowd, and it stuns for like a third of the time the Shock Mine does. So you get less of them. You cannot restore them by picking up grenades in a pinch like you can with Shock Mines. It lasts for a third as long, so one Shock Mine is the stun value of like 3 explosions. It's just all bad. And Shock Mines are the main reason why you always want one Arbiter in Havoc. Now, another thing Shock Mines do is they kind of invalidate Ogryn just a little bit, don't you think? What is the point of being slow and lumbering into a choke point to taunt things away from your teammates when you could instead put down a Shock Mine that lasts longer than the taunt, is more immediately impactful than the taunt because you don't also have to worry about getting hit. You don't have to worry about walking cleaves. Like, think about it. Ogryn taunts, okay, well, if he taunts like 7 Crushers, they're still doing overheads. He can still walk those into teammates. If they're under the effect of Shock Mine, they can't do anything. So it serves the same role as taunt of controlling an area, except you don't have to think anymore, and your teammates don't have to worry about things being walked into them. It's just better. I'm sorry. It's just better. And the arbites grenade, this is... Fatshark, you kind of gave up on this one. I'm sorry if that offends you, but you know it, I know it, the community knows it. You kind of gave up on this one. This is the most bog standard grenade I've ever seen in my life. You pull the pin, you throw it, it blows up on an enemy. And a lot of the time, it doesn't even kill them. These are not very good. And I'm sorry for the shock mine, or that's shock mine. I'm sorry for the arbites grenade enjoyers out there. You're just wrong. This is one of those times where something is just so much objectively better than the other option that, I mean, look at this. What would you rather have? Would you rather have impact grenade that, like, even if you direct impact, cannot deal substantial damage to damn near anything you actually care about? It's good versus, like, ragers. Okay. Hold on, Tanner. Let's talk about the positives first. Very good if you're if you need to do that. If you're just in the middle of a horde fighting like this, boom, 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 you're fighting. Oh shit, I hear specialists. Go away. I don't want you to throw a bomb. Very impactful. And preventing a bomb or a sniper shot or a flamer is actually really good. The problem is, would you rather the ability to mid-horde fight, instantly cancel the fight and, like, dodge backwards and then instantly deal with a threat coming in and then go back to fighting? Or would you rather the ability to be like, oh, how many crushers is that? Pretend like these are crushers for a second. Oh no, there's a horde of 20 rotten armor crushers coming in. No, there's not. No, there's not. They're all stacked together. No, there isn't. And now we just fight and kill them, and we have the next 15 seconds for free. I get that there's RBD Grenades fans out there, and believe me, it's not, like, useless garbage dog shit. But it is, like, it's also boring as hell, you have to admit. Whatever that word is, arbitrage your or more armor. 25 toughness flat is really hard to pass up, especially on a guy that gets this much toughness. This is a node that's so good that even if it wasn't mandatory, you would path out of your way to take it. Okay. This is a node I have a lot to say about. Your Cyber Mastiff electrocutes enemies it attacks for 5 seconds. This does exactly what it says on the tin. Now, this does good damage. It does 72 damage twice a second, I think. Don't quote me on the exact number, but still. It almost doubles your dog's DPS on the targeted attacks. See? Honestly, pretty damn good. Way stronger than the bleed. But if that's all it did, you still wouldn't take this in a dog build, because your dog would do enough damage with the regular force dog talents. The real reason why you use this is because if we go and spawn a boss, is this right here. See how the boss is now electrified? The arbites cannot electrify a boss without the dog using this talent to apply it. And every time it jumps, it will reapply it. So, why does that matter? Well, high voltage, 25% damage versus electrocuted enemies. This one talent might as well just read, you gain 25% damage versus monstrosities. And this node massively helps with the arbites' lack of boss damage problem. Granted, the veteran will still just throw like 4 crack grenades at the boss and kill it before you even walk up to it. Granted. So the Arbiter still has really shit boss damage compared to characters of really good boss damage. But this is a 1-point investment for 25% boss damage. Most people already take Monstrosity Hunter. This is basically that part 2. Ammo Belt is really good, and you might as well grab it for 1 point. So you have 69 bullets in reserve with the shotgun. With this, you go up to 86. I mean, there's really nothing else to say. It makes your ammo pickups 25% more efficient. It makes survivalist refunds 25% more efficient. And soon to be with the Ganger, it's going to make their aura 25% more efficient as well. I find this hard to pass up. Sometimes I don't take it, sometimes I do. It's very user-dependent. Concussive. I'm surprised this isn't just a class passive. You kind of have to take this node. This makes enemies count as staggered for 4 seconds, which note is not the same as staggering them, but for the purposes of all this shit to come, You know, this feels like the Fallout New Vegas DLC when I scroll down here. You know, when you're like at Big Mountain and they're talking about things to come and they like hint at like Ulysses and Dead Money and shit. Yeah, there's like this like shadow looming at the bottom of the skill tree. Anyway, this is very important later on. It doesn't seem like it's all that good, but being able to concuss an enemy and proc all of your concussed buffs on one attack genuinely is game-changing for this character. I can't talk about this talent in any good way without the context of later talents. So we're going to be coming back to this one frequently. Well, first and foremost, if you're not running Relentless Strikes, if you're running the concuss thing, this will automatically proc that. So that's the first synergy that this has. The 120% damage talent, this can just be 20% damage after the first hit. Canine morale is really good. And if this aura wasn't so shit, I think you'd see a lot more people use it. Killing pounced targets grants allies and coherency 20% TDR and 10% toughness over 5 seconds. I really wish the TDR lasted more like 10 seconds. Excuse me. God, excuse me. If the TDR lasted more like 10 seconds and it was 15% toughness, this would be an extraordinarily strong node. But as is, your dog, unless you're using like the dog whistle mod, just doesn't get that many kills. But still, don't sleep on giving everyone on the team 20% TDR for like 40% uptime. It's not a bad value proposition. Imposing Force. Gain 25% damage resistance for 5 seconds after elite or specialist kill. Ogren mains are fucking crying. Remember when I said that Keystone was shit? Yeah. Yeah, they ended up just making that crap a passive. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else to say. There is another character in this goddamn video game that has a passive, or I'm sorry, that has an entire keystone that builds up to being this effect that you just get for, like, tagging your dog on an enemy once every 5 seconds. Thank you, Fat Shark. Very cool. Moving on. Staggering an enemy makes them deal 20% less damage. This is not very good, because things that aren't crushers and maulers die after you stagger them almost immediately. And things that don't die are only dangerous because they one-shot you and have a bajillion health points now on Havoc. This is one of those nodes that sounds like it's really good on the surface, and if you don't think super deeply about the game, like you don't think about it on a deeper level, okay, like if you think about the game like, okay, I want to support my team, talents that help all are better than talents that help just me, which is true, by the way, and you're like, okay, this is 20% less damage on everything I'm fighting for the rest of the team. Your mind is in a good place, but you need to think a level deeper than that. What do you stagger that deals relevant damage? Not gunners. If you're staggering a gunner with your melee, they are dying within the next 0.2 seconds. Not trash mobs for the same exact reason. Maybe Ragers. Ragers would be a good... If you said Ragers, you're a smart cookie, because that's a good one. Not shotgunners. It's really not specialists. Those are also going to die too quickly. The things that you stagger the most and deal damage are armored guys. I don't really have the talents for this yet because we're not that deep in the tree. But the problem is, are those guys... What makes those guys an actually dangerous enemy? It's not the little chip damage attacks they do, I'll tell you that much. It's the fact that they're on Havoc 40, there's like 20 of them, and they all have the potential to instantly kill you. This doesn't stop that. So, if you think this talent is good, I would give you like a B grade. You're not at that deeper level yet. You're not thinking about it on that deeper level where you see the full value of things, but you're starting to think, you're thinking about things a level deeper than someone who just has like no idea what they're talking about, but you're not thinking about it on that like really experience level of like what's actually relevant. You know, so good job to those guys. Keep doing what you're doing. You're probably gonna get there pretty soon. Anyway, suppression protocols. Hitting 3 or more enemies with an attack grants you 20% TDR for 5 seconds. Well, fuck, boys, pack it up. We found the only, like, thing that you take in this row that invalidates everything else. I mean, I don't know what else you want me to say. 20% TDR is great, especially on a class with this much toughness. You know something this class actually kind of lacks? This class kind of lacks damage resistance, which I know, save your comments. We're going to talk about Keystones when we get there. But this class, I mean, think about it. We have seen barely no TDR in the top half of the tree. And we're just now starting to see it down here. And really, this is the only one we see that we actually want. If you're not using a dog build, you can't even get this. Because if you take, like, Lone Wolf, you can't even, like, take this stuff. So, you know, this is our first actually relevant toughness damage reduction node, and it's only 20%. By this point in the tree, Veteran has potentially gotten the one at the top for 30%. He's potentially gotten the one in the middle for 50%. Psyker's picked up one, the one with the warp, which is like 33%. Zealot has picked up... We're not talking about that motherfucker. All right, his crackhead ass is not invited to the cookout. Anyway, so... this class does really struggle with actually reducing the incoming damage. He's just good at restoring it. Well, until you get later in the tree. We'll talk about it when we get there. Okay, let's talk auras. Part of the squad is not bad at all, actually. Your Cyber Mastiff counts towards coherency. Well, okay, hold on. I guess I'll finish up talking about suppression protocols. I mean, there's really not much to say. You're always hitting at least 3 things. It's always proccing. It doesn't matter. I mean, look, just like, you just walk and strike and it's active. And it's got long enough uptime for, you know, like what you're using it for. And what really sends this shit over the edge is you can even activate it like this. If you're really desperate for uptime on it and you feel like you aren't getting it through melee, just pull your gun out, shoot once, and there you go. Anyway. Part of the squad is pretty good. 7.5% TDR is nice. It's not as good as Benediction. And as we all know, we don't need to relitigate the process. Tanner won, though, when it came to the coherency, toughness, regeneration argument. So we don't need to get into that and why it's bad. Everybody just kind of accepts it's pretty shit now. Well, except for literally like 5 guys. But they're just going to disagree with anything I say, no matter what. So we don't need to talk about that. But coherency is just not a good mechanic, just point blank. And 7.5% toughness damage reduction is not super good. I really wish this was 10%. I really wish this was 10%, honestly. It would be so much more impactful at 10%. It would just feel better to click it. Ruthless efficiency is terrible. You and allies in coherency gain an additional 12.5% reload speed. Hold on. Alright, look at this. I'm going to reload 2 shotgun shells. Okay, now watch this. I'm going to reload 2 shotgun shells again. I can't even tell the fucking difference, bro. Veteran gets 25 and 30%. This is less than half of what Veteran gets. And dude, the Veteran talents for like 25 and 30%, they're barely worth taking as is on the dedicated gun guy that's using the best fucking gun in the game. So a guy with not so good gun options compared to Veteran and half the effect, it's just why. Fat Shark just didn't go in enough on the idea of gun-wielding arbites. So all of the support for it is really incredibly mediocre. And then you have this, Breaking Descent. You and allies in coherency deal an additional 10% damage versus staggered. Okay, so the one weapon blessing is 20% damage versus staggered. This is now 10% damage versus staggered. Okay, so before we've even left the general area, literally we are 2 skills down, and this talent has already given us a consistent 30% damage on all attacks. Okay, sure, we're already there. I wonder if that's going to get any more ridiculous as time goes on. Hey, another 25 toughness. Okay, our toughness bar is starting to get a little crazy. Okay, now let's talk about these. Unleash Brutality. Your Cyber Mastiff prioritizes elite and specialist enemies, deals 25% damage to them. Okay, but why though? Prioritizing them is kind of stupid because you can just mark them. Yeah, and 25% damage. My brother in Christ, there's a node that gives this thing 150% damage. You better suck and fuck me if you want me to take 25% damage. Like, if I want the dog to do damage, I'm just going to take this. This one node, it's literally like 8 of these stacked together. Get this shit out of here. This is terrible. Okay, it's not terrible, but like, here, just look for yourself, okay? You decide. Who won? Who's next? You decide. So it goes from 200 damage to 250. Hold on, we're going to watch this together. We're going to look at the DPS differential on this. So with this on a Maniac, it does 213 DPS. How much DPS do you think we're going to do without it? How much DPS do you think this adds, realistically? We already know prioritizing elites and specialists is pointless because you can just physically mark them. And the damage difference is like 40 DPS, I rest my goddamn case. Who cares about 40 DPS? That is just slightly more than Smite used to do when we all agreed Smite was terrible at actually killing things before they gave it another 100% damage and then made Scryer's Gaze infinite, which gave it like another 70% damage. And stop buffing Scryer's Gaze. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. Anyway, yeah, this is pretty terrible. Go Get 'em is also pretty terrible. Prioritizing ranged enemies is better than specialist and elites because you just actually care about those dying and you can't physically mark them. And 50% damage is in fact twice the amount of 25. And it's actually relevant for like these guys. I don't think I can make my dog attack them in the Psychanium, so, you know. I'm pretty sure you could figure out what 200 plus 50% is. And then we can look at their health bar, which is 500. And you can figure out that, wait a second, 2 ticks of 250 would kill in the same amount of ticks as 300. So this 50% damage is never even relevant, Fat Shark. Why? Yeah, so it takes like 500 damage to kill shooters. And, like, except for this one, I think it might be relevant versus this guy. I'd have to do the math. But the point is, for guaranteed for sure, for 80% of the shooters in the game, this doesn't matter. So, think about it. If they have 500 health, and this makes it tick for 250 damage, that means the dog needs to bite them and do 2 instances of damage for them to die. Well, if it does 50% damage, and now it ticks for 300, it still needs to tick twice to kill them. So even though this says it does more damage, it is in no way relevant as opposed to this damaging, which is just fantastical. I don't even know what to say. I wish this just made the dog one-shot them, I guess, without the need of the Keystone to back it up. At least the prioritizing is nice. Also, can I mention how this reminds me of, like, D20, which I think is really cool. 25% cleave versus 25% impact. Do you know that meme of the Crips versus Bloods where it says, what side are you on? But it's, like, ultimately a meaningless choice because they're the same fucking thing. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about this. You know, we got the red Crips over here. We got the blue Bloods over here. You know, which side are you on, homie? At the end of the day, it doesn't fucking matter. But I do think the Cleave is better. Unfortunately, we have to talk about the Arbiter ultimates. Hate me. Disagree all you want. You are a stinky doo-doo head silly Billy. Break the Line is good, and these two are terrible. Go ahead. Boo! Get off the stage. Throw your banana peels at me. But after you hear this oh wait, fuck, I forgot Lone Wolf, sorry. Okay, Lone Wolf is the obviously good one. You are no longer accompanied by your Cyber Mastiff. Bye, see you later, get out of here, El Bozo, Pack Watch, rest in piss dog. Gain 15% TDR. Well, that's really valuable on a guy with a lot of toughness and the ability to generate like 100 every second. Holding on to that and reducing incoming damage is huge. 15% TDR is the equivalent of 1 skill point. 10% attack speed is the equivalent of 1 skill point. So we're up to 2 skill points worth of value. 10% damage is slightly under the average expected value of 1 skill point. It's about 15 if you're wondering what the average expected value is. So this is about like 2.7, we can say 3 skill points if you want to be generous. Plus 1 increased charges on your Blitz ability was literally 1 skill point on Veteran before the rework, and replenish a charge of your Blitz every 60 seconds is also literally 1 skill point on the Veteran. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 15 is 1. 10% attack speed is 2. 10% damage is 3. Increase Blitz is 4. Replenish is 5. Sorry, so it's 5 skill points worth of value in 1 single node. Holy shit. This also breaks the economy of the game, because now, not only do you pick up 33% more shock mines every time you use an ammo crate, you also get them back for free, mid-fight, with no supplies needed. And we've already established how disgustingly overpowered these things are. I don't know what else to say. Like, this is so much obviously better than Dog. Here, hold on, I can prove this to you. I literally run Lone Wolf with the Dog Keystone, okay? Like, there are times, like, this node is just that fucking much value. All right, call me the, forget the Hearthstone guy called Trump, not the Donald guy. Forget that, dude. I'm the goddamn mayor of Value Town, because I'm never playing without this Keystone. Okay, now we can talk about ultimates. Doo-doo stance. Castigator stance is silly. It's bad. So this is another thing where I'm sure I'm going to catch a lot of flack from people that just don't know any better. But you gotta trust me on this one. Or you can, like, you know, just think about it a little bit. This alt is cool. I'm not going to tell you it's not cool. And I'm not going to tell you to not use it. But I am going to say it's just strictly worse than Break the Line. For 10 seconds, you have 15% move speed, 80% reduced damage taken, 100% reduced movement penalty from action, but you cannot sprint, and you replenish all toughness. This node is cool as fuck, and it is effectively impossible to die in it. The problem, it is a 50-second cooldown, which is gigantic. And 2, it doesn't actually do anything. What about the game state changes for you and your team when you use Castigators? Nothing. When a veteran shouts, everything knocks over, and nobody has to worry about any form of cleave, poxburster, sniper, overhead, all that bullshit. When a zealot uses charge, it does a very small stagger to everything, and he instantly kills a priority target. Same with stealth. When a psyker uses shriek, he knocks everything over, and he applies a shit ton of damage, instantly killing the first wave of things in a pack. What happens when you Castigator stance? Nothing. Okay, what does 80% reduced damage taken actually mean? Well, it means you can't die. I'm aware there's a part of the community that fucking hates when I bring this up, but what if you just weren't taking a bunch of damage in the first place? Well, this really starts to look pretty mediocre, doesn't it? And this limits your ability to make plays severely. You can't move, you can dodge, I guess. You know, you can do like this. But basically, you're just Dark Souls slow walking up to things and mindlessly attacking. The problem is, like, I don't know, it just doesn't do anything. That's literally the problem. It doesn't crowd control anything. It doesn't help you actually remove threats, because that's the main issue. If this gave you a big damage boost as well, it would be so much better. Because if it at least gave you like 30% rending and 30% damage and like 20% attack speed, then you could like actually like one-man lawnmower, one-man meat grinder through a bit of the Crusher pack, and this is at least a little bit impactful. The problem is, and I know a lot of you guys don't like when I say just don't get hit, lol, but like, if you're depending on this to stay alive, because all it does is reduce your damage taken, what happens when it ends? You didn't get a substantial amount of extra damage, so the thing that made you want to pop this isn't gone. You still have to deal with it. You didn't crowd control anything, so again, if you needed this to avoid damage, well, that damage is still incoming when it ends, and that's the main issue. The damage is usually still coming at you after this ends. So you were either going to just not get hit and not take that damage, you're skilled enough, or you're just going to take the damage 10 seconds later and kick the can down the road. Very rare to pop this, deal with the threat, and move on. And even if you were going to do that, just knocking things over every like 10 seconds of break the line is just better. I'm very disappointed in this ultimate. When I came back to the game and I was playing this class, on stream, I foolishly said that I actually feel like Arbiter is honestly on the weaker end of things. And I thought that because I was using Castigator's stance. It's not that Arbiter is weak, it's that Castigator's stance is really weak. During Castigator's stance, each elite or specialist kill grants 5% damage lasting 10 seconds, 10 max stacks. Tanner, didn't you just say the biggest problem with this is damage? Yeah, it is. So here's the thing, though. So if you pop this and then kill a bunch of specialists to actually get a nice damage bonus built up, like, this is good and all. Like, this is great. The problem with this that I have is, one, because it's something you have to build up towards, when are you using Castigator's stance? Like, are you using Castigator's stance when there's like 10 shotgunners there for you to just instantly kill with your shotgun? No, why the fuck would you do that? If there's enough things around for you to easily kill to build this up in the first place, why are you in Castigator's stance at all? Clearly, you're not at risk of taking damage if you just killed 10 elites in like a second to build it up. And you see what I'm saying? Like, it's just so catch-22. Pop Castigator's stance to build up Writ of Execution. Well, clearly you didn't need to be in the stance for the damage reduction, and now you can't move to keep up with your team. And pop it for the damage reduction. Clearly you're fighting things you can't just kill to build Writ of Execution in the first place. It's just very conflicting design. Honestly, this node would kind of be better designed if it gave you 50% damage that lost a 5% stack every single time you killed an elite or specialist. Actually, I think that's what it should be. This should be gain 10 stacks of 5% damage, lose 1 stack whenever you kill an elite or specialist. But every time you lose a stack, it refreshes the duration of the stacks. So you can, if you're really like skilled, you can hold on to these for like a very long time. But they're gradually getting weaker and weaker. That would make Castigator's stance so much better. Pop it, get your damage, and now you can aggressively push with the damage reduction and the damage boost. I'm talking about this for way too long, sorry. Blessed Armament. During stance, ranged kills replenish up to 10% of your total ammo in your clip from your reserve. Rounded up. Okay, so this is a fucking veteran talent in a trench coat. I don't know how else to describe this. It's literally a veteran talent in a trench coat. If this character cared at all about guns, or reloading was at all a problem with guns for him, I guess this would be good. But he doesn't have a problem with reloading, nor does he even care. So, like, this is terrible. During Castigator's stance, your Mastiff has 75% damage. Okay. 75% damage here. 150% damage here. That's decent. Not good when you consider he only does 200% damage. Even if you gave him 400% increased damage, the fact that he only deals 200 base, even if you gave him 400% damage, you can't, but even if you could give him 400% damage, he would only do what, like 1600 per tick once every 2 seconds to a boss. It's not nothing, but it's not something to build around either. It's just whatever. Who cares? Okay, now let's talk about the Nuncio-Aquila, one of the more interesting ultimates they've ever made. I don't think this ultimate's very good, but if you use this just because it's cool, honestly, you're kind of based for that. Deploy whatever the fuck in the target direction. Allies. Oh, can I mention something, by the way, before we talk about this? Why can I not press F again? I should be able to press the ultimate key again, and just like the dog, he should point and be like, over there, you know? And it should just, like, float, like, and then, like, get into position again. I think it should absolutely work like that. And the fact that it doesn't work like that single-handedly makes so much of its potential disappear. Honestly, the Arbiter as a whole is just a little clunky with the pet stuff. I don't think Fat Shark has quite mastered the pet class yet. Like, remote detonation needs to be manually proccable in an area of your choosing, and it needs to be seamless and not clunky. The Nuncio needs to be able to move on command, or maybe just make the Nuncio follow you at this point. Because I get what they're going for, like an intimidation area denial tool. The problem is that's already done better by his Blitz. I would rather have a shock mine and a choke point than a Nuncio any day of the week. And if you've already thrown down a shock mine, what's the point of throwing down a Nuncio? And if you've already thrown down a Nuncio, what's the point of putting down a shock mine? And the difference is this has a 60-second cooldown. You get one of these back so this lasts for 15 seconds and you get one every 60 seconds. This lasts for 20 seconds and you get one every 60 seconds. Do you see the problem here? Shock mines are so overpowered, they haven't just started invalidating entire aspects of other classes like the Ogryn. They've begun invalidating entire abilities on the goddamn class it's attached to. It's ridiculous how overpowered these things are. It's actually crazy. Anyway, we'll give it a fair shake. Allies within 7.5 meters replenish 7.5% toughness per second. That's pretty good. Gain 30% suppression dealt. Hello, veteran in a trench coat. By the way, veteran has an ability to deal like 50-75% suppression dealt. And that's not even tied to an ultimate. He just does that. 30% impact. Impact is incredibly strong if you build a lot of it, but no one other than Arbiter builds a lot of it. So again, this is confused, right? Who gives a fuck about suppression dealt? If you care about that, you're veteran, and you're taking a talent that gives you like triple this effect almost. It's more like 2.5. And if you care about impact, you're either playing Ogryn, where you impact everything to death, or Arbiter, where you impact everything to death. The fact that impact kind of works in thresholds means you either have enough of it to stagger things that are relevant very quickly, or you don't. And 30% is not going to swing that one way or the other. If you have enough stagger to stagger relevant things, 30% doesn't matter anymore. And if you don't have enough stagger, 30% is not going to get you there. As well as our slowdown immune. Okay, Fat Shark, can we talk? Slowdown immune is cool. It's good. I think it definitely deserves to exist. Whoa, dude. Nuncio is freaking out. The freak Nuncio. But, this is such a small square to have a slow immunity in that, like, I'm glad you put it there, but who cares? Suppression immune is kind of the same thing. Like, if you're just not, look, I'm aware the average person absolutely is horrible at FPS games. That is not a snarky, arrogant, condescending comment either. If you don't believe me, go download Kovacs right now, go on Voltaic's benchmark website, and go run through the beginner playlist. I guarantee you, 99.99% of you who are hearing this will score lower. You will score in the bottom 5% globally or lower at the absolute beginner level. 99% of people that play FPS games have aim so bad, if you spend even just a week aim training, you will be able to out-aim 70% of everyone in, like, Battlefield and COD. I'm not even joking. I mean, look at how many people in Battlefield call you a cheater for just, like, killing, like, 5 guys in, like, 3 seconds with flicks. It's ridiculous. So, Suppression Immune is good, but I think it's really unnecessary. I think it's a bit of a skill issue, honestly. Maybe you think I'm wrong about that. That's fine. But that is what I think. Have minus 25% recoil. Again, what fucking recoil, dude? Are we playing a different... Did Darktide become an aim-intensive skill game when I was gone? Did that happen? What fucking recoil, man? Like, am I crazy for thinking this game doesn't even have recoil? Look, boom. Like, look, boom, headshot. Oh, almost. Boom, headshot. Boom, headshot. Boom, boom, boom. Like, what recoil? Am I missing something? And this is a bolt gun. This is, like, the most recoil. Look, here's a fully automatic pistol. Should be insanely inaccurate. What recoil? Am I missing something? Like, can you guys tell me if I'm going crazy on this? I don't even think Darktide has recoil. Like, genuinely, does this game have recoil? I genuinely can't tell. So, whatever, man. Skill issue if you need this for aiming. And are immune to interruption during alternate fire is such a random thing to tag onto this. I'm not even sure I understand what that means. You guys don't remember that commercial of Kobe Bryant and Kanye where he's like, what the fuck does that mean, Kobe Bryant? That's what I'm thinking. Like, do they mean you're immune to interruption while aiming? Because they consider aiming alt fire on guns. I do know that. So, like, what, you're immune to suppression and interruption while ADSing? Again, hello, veteran in a trench coat. This would be cool on veteran, but what is it doing on a class with virtually zero gun support? Enemies within have 15% damage taken. Thank you, or no. Thank you, Fat Shark. Very cool. Not like this class, you know, this, we all know this class was hurting for 15% damage taken node. That really moves the needle. This thing is terrible. Here, let's talk about the modifiers first. Allies affected also gain 30% TDR. That's good. 30% revive speed. Okay. I'm not complaining. It's just random. It's just why. So what is the idea that your dumb fuck teammate gets down over here because he wasn't fighting in the choke point where he... This is my issue with this thing, okay? Let's say the choke point is over here. Your allies are never going to die fighting in a choke point where they should be. And that's where you want to drop this. You want to drop this in a place where the idea is you fight in this circle and you just never die because you're fighting in a choke with 20 seconds of buffs. So if your teammate dies in dumb fuck nowhere out there, 1, you're either not going to be under the effect of this. 2, it doesn't follow you and you can't make it move. This would be a nice bonus if you could, like, throw it in a choke point. Timmy Gonzalez 3000, the level 20 zealot, gets downed over there out of the choke point. You click F and it's like, Deluxe! And then it, like, flies over here and then you revive him. And then you go like, Deluxe! And then you move it back into the choke point. Like, that would be good, and I would honestly say, okay, that's a nice bonus. Sure, thank you. See, this, well, by the way, I know it's kind of notorious that I don't like revive speed. I don't like revive speed when it's the main function of the talent. I think this is actually how Fat Shark should do revive speed talents. You would not take this. Revive speed does not matter for this. 10% attack speed and 30% TDR. That's why you're taking this. Adding 30% revive speed on it is just a very nice bonus. This is where I think revive speed is super worth it. And yeah, 30% TDR, 10% attack speed, you kind of have to take that if you're going to use this. Because 1, it helps your damage output with the attack speed, and 2, it actually does something relevant for making you not die. Which, sorry to say, but literally you could cut 90% of the text off of this ultimate and replace it with just the literally... Okay, Fat Shark, can we talk? Can you just start at gain 30% suppression dealt, and can you just take some scissors and cut that off? And cut that off all the way down to, and are immune to interruption during alternate fire. Just cut all that text off. Take this. Just take this. Put it on here. Take that line of text and put it on here. If you do that, no one and their mother would ever take this talent, but that would make the Nuncio substantially better. Fear of Justice is a weird skill. The time between affected enemies' melee attacks is increased by 50% and their attacks deal 25% less damage. This is okay. Basically, the way this works, I know it's very confusing, is that enemies have a cooldown on their attacks. You've probably noticed this. Crushers never do like back-to-back overheads unless there's a long gap of them walking in between. There is an internal hidden cooldown between every attack. This extends that cooldown by 50%, which is pretty good. And making them deal 25% less damage kind of runs into the same issue as Suppression Force. Though I will say, the fact that this is affected by things just in the circle and aren't actively being attacked makes this leagues better. Because if you're already attacking something to proc this, it's going to die very soon after. And because it's staggered from your attack, it's already not posing a threat, and it's about to die. Whereas this is just basically a flat 25% damage reduction. So, like, if you're gonna go Nuncio, you know, you kind of have to take both of these. Which feels really shitty. Because Nuncio's already kind of a meme ultimate, and to make it go from an unusable meme to actually kind of decent, you have to invest more in it than you do the other two. God, I have spent way too long talking about these. I had so much more to say about these abilities than I thought I did. Jesus Christ. Okay, and now it's time for the insert actually good one that everyone uses here, TM. Break the Line. Kruber charge causing high stagger to enemies and gain 25% damage and 50% impact. During the bash, you count as blocking. Thank you, Fat Shark. Very cool. Yeah, I don't know what else to say other than that. This staggers crushers. There can be 50 crushers. Hold on. Let me, 500 crushers. You could have like 50 crushers, you know, POV, you're playing Havoc 40 Rotten Armor and having the worst fucking time of your life. Dopamine. You know? Like, okay, that's pretty good. And let's talk about the ability modifiers. Replenish 20% toughness and stamina for each elite specialist and monstrosity hit up to full toughness and almost full stamina. Well, hot diggity dog. So you're telling me the class that's super tanky just has a one-button way to instantly get all of his tankiness back. Hello, voice of command in a trench coat. Literally, this is voice of command in a trench coat that just doesn't give you gold toughness. I think you should always take this. And I'm aware some people in the community disagree with that statement. JonTron clip, insert, you're wrong. Hear me out. Restore 0.5 ability cooldown for each hit. Increase to 1 on elite specialist or monstrosity. 5 max cooldown restored. That is a lot more than you think. That's 25% CDR. And if you take 12% CDR on Curios, this is like an 11-second base CDR. Which means you can spam this so hard. And it's such effective crowd control. Imagine doing this like every 11, 12 seconds. Getting all your toughness back. And the main thing, right? And I've honestly dropped revive speed on this guy for CDR. Because targeted brutality plus CDR gives me about a 40 to 50% uptime on this 25% damage. So it's like every 12 seconds, I'm knocking the crowd over, getting a damage boost, and getting a free toughness and stamina restore. That's really good. Like, that's really, really good. If you combine this plus 12% CDR from Curios plus Mallocator, which that's basically what this build is. I've been running this build a lot, and I found it to be extremely effective. I personally get better results with this build than I do something like this, taking Forceful. Even if you take like all this stuff as well, I've found this to be the most effective way for me to run Arbiter. Because with Malkador, plus CDR trinkets, plus targeted brutality, you legitimately have like a 7-6 second cooldown on this. You can spam it so fucking much. Think about it. This makes it go down to a 15-second cooldown. And the moment you pop it, it instantly loses 1 second. So it's actually a 19 base second cooldown. So this makes it immediately go down to 14 seconds. Then, because the base value is what's reduced by the CDR Curios, the CDR Curios take like... It's like a second rounded up to be like 2 seconds taken off of this effectively. So it goes down from... It instantly ticks 1 second off the moment you press the ability. That's just universal darktide thing. The CDR takes like 1.3 seconds off of it, which, you know, perceptively, it's effectively 2 seconds. So you press it and you're at like 17 CD. Then this 5 seconds kicks in and it goes down to like 11 CD or whatever, like 12 CD. Then you get 1 kill with this, and for those 8 seconds, it ticks down two ability cooldown seconds for every 1 second that passes while this is active. So you just got to use this damage boost to kill one thing, and you get like a consistent, like 7 or less second cooldown on this, which just leads to endless fucking spam. And the fact that it's endless toughness replenishment, it's endless damage, it's endless stunning. I have had times where you legitimately just use this with that setup, with Malkador, with CDR, and like by the time the Crushers get up and start attacking again, I've knocked their dumbasses over again. The distance of break the line is increased. Oh my god, who gives a shit? This is pretty terrible. Don't ever use it. Literally, it just makes like that longer. Whee! You know, like there's no commentary to be had. It's bad. Don't take it. I don't think anyone ever uses this. I don't think anyone is dumb enough to take this. Okay, this is one of those times where I have to say you're kind of dumb if you do take this. Because, like, literally, why? Like, you already charge, like, 7 meters. Just be within this distance, you know? And, like, it doesn't make any sense. Okay, so you do what? You do, like, this and knock them over from back here instead. Well, you know, like you charge forward. You know, like, you just charge forward further. Who cares? Just sprint. Just sprint that extra 7 meters. It literally takes, like, less than a second to sprint this distance before using it. And kill order is also okay. 50% damage for your Cyber Mastiff for 12 seconds after using your combat ability. By the way, with this and CDR, you don't even need Malkador. Just this plus CDR trinkets, you have, like, 90% uptime on this, just by the way. So if you're, like, dog maxing, you're taking, like, go get 'em, kill order, execution order, you know, you might as well take that as, like, go full cooldown on this. And, you know, you are absolutely white woman dog maxing. The Hassan Piker build, if you would. Okay, now let's talk about this stuff. Holy Jesus, we're an hour in and we're already here. Or I'm sorry, not already. I rather mean we're finally here. Justified measures. 2% damage on successful attack, 5 max stacks, last 5 seconds. I'm not going to insult your intelligence and tell you why you should always take this. I think it's pretty fucking obvious that everyone always takes this no matter what. It's prime placement. It's just constant free damage. We're gonna move on. Staggering an enemy grants 1 stacks of 3% damage resistance on the next melee hit taken, stacking 5 times and lasting 8 seconds. Staggering non-human sized enemies grants 5 stacks. Okay. This is basically just 15% melee damage on your damage resistance on your next melee damage taken, which will stack with the damage resistance and stuff. And this is where Arbiter starts to get a little nuts. Hold the line plus Forceful plus Suppression plus all this regen. Very tanky. Yeah, I mean, this is just good. You should always take it. It's just 15% damage resistance basically always. 15% damage for 5 seconds after successful dodge. That shark, you gave up, didn't you? I mean, yeah. It's 15% damage for pressing a button. That is basically up like 65% of the time in a melee fight. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty fucking good. Moving on. Judas Efficiency. 20% reload speed on next reload after elite or specialist kill. Okay. Let me bring the shotgun out here for a second. I'm so happy we're in the fast part of the tree to talk about, because 90% of this stuff is garbage. Hold on. So this is our reload speed. Very cool. This is our reload speed with this node. Honestly, that guy moving into frame distracted me, and I can't even fucking tell the difference. Very cool. Imperceptible difference. Thank you, Fat Shark, for my mandated abysmal dog shit. Yeah, I don't even know what you would do to fix this. Make it 30%, I guess. Make it give you 10% range damage as well. The problem is the Arbiter just doesn't have enough damage support for ranged weapons. His ranged weapons are very good because of what they do. So think about it. This is a good street sweeper. This weapon is great at like, oh, I have a bunch of ammo and there's a horde of enemies. Let me just like, hold on, let me reset everything. Oh no, I have full ammo and I want to pick up this ammo pack and there's a horde coming in. Let me just deal with that. Okay, the horde is dead. Let me try to use a little bit more. Let me kill the next wave of the horde. And it's like, oh, I just killed like 30 things in a couple seconds with this. Okay, let me pick the ammo up and move on. This is also good because of the special shells. Oh no, I'm out of all my ways to crowd control somehow. Oh, well, I still have 6 more for free. So, like, for this weapon to be much better, or, you know, the other thing, oh, there's like 17 ragers in a crowd. Fuck. Okay, not anymore. They're getting knocked over and they're dying. Oh no, there's a line of shotgunners. No, there isn't. I just killed like 7 of them in one shot. That's what makes this thing good. And it's already, like, it's already sufficient enough at those tasks. So making it reload faster is like, who gives a shit? And unless you're going to give it like 30, 40, 50, maybe even % damage, it's not really going to change anything. Zealous Dedication, 2% critical strike chance on kill, 8 stacks, last 10 seconds. This is good. This ends up being 16% critical strike chance. I like it. I use it. It's a good DPS increase. I mean, it's basically just another 15% damage node at the end of the day. You consider how much crits do and how often you crit, you math it out. It's a little more, a little less than 15%. Rapid movement. Sliding increases sprint speed by 5% for 5 seconds. Kills restore 5% stamina with a cooldown. You will never be 30% stamina restore on bullet dodge. Yeah, I don't even know what to say about this. This node is just bad. I don't think Fat Shark even knows that they want. If you want speed, just take no escape. If you want stamina restore, just use this tongue twister. Don't use rapid movement, ever, for anything. It's not worth it. Rebreather. Alright. I'm aware that this is a controversial talent. And I'm here to tell you that this talent is fucking awesome in Havoc and terrible everywhere else. So, what makes this talent so good in Havoc? It's the 75% reduced damage taken from toxic gas. I swear to God, the most dangerous thing in Havoc, the thing that will end the most runs, is when a group of 3 Tox Bombers spawn, and each of them get a Tox Bomb off. That is a legitimately game-ending scenario that happens more than you think. When Tox Bombers spawn, they really like to spawn bombers in groups of 3 in Havoc 40s now. And if it just so happens that it rolls all 3 as Tox Bombers, you might just get fucked and lose. This is not necessarily good as a defensive talent, because just move out of the gas, lol W, you fucking idiot. But do you know where this is good? When you are a gassy Gemerald warrior. You are here to save the thread, and you run through the gas to kill the gas bombers behind the gas cloud. Because that's the push and pull of gas bombers. They spawn, they get a gas grenade off, maybe the veteran kills one, maybe two, but one is still alive, and you are forced to retreat because of the gas. Now that gas bomber is Tom Brady lobbing fucking Kobeing balls of gas, Globadier shit, at you from like the other side of a wall, and you just keep losing ground. I have legitimately seen entire runs of Havoc 40 straight up die and end because of the fucking CBT gas bomber that you just cannot kill. This is a 1-point investment to ensure your team will never lose to that ever again. It's also nice for clearing mines on the Karnak twins. Yeah. Also, this is one of those talents where you will absolutely select it for 5 games, never find a use for it, unselect it, and the game where you unselect it, you will be absolutely wishing you had kept it. That is how this works. It has been scientifically proven that when you take... This is like a tech card. If you've ever played a card game like Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Hearthstone, this is a tech pick. You do not use this node like 99% of the run. But when you do use this node, it is so impactful for hard countering something that otherwise has no hard counter and can just run roughshot and snowball and kill you. It's like Big Game Hunter from Hearthstone, you know? Opponent drops a fucking 12-12 Van Cleef on turn 4, and you, like, coin out a BGH to answer it, you know? That's basically what this is. You would have lost if you didn't do that. It's not useless against the rogue any other time, but man, when it is useful, it's game-winning. That's basically Rebreather in a nutshell. And like I said, it has been scientifically proven that if you take this node off, you will be cursed with 500 gas bombs that all go off. So I think it's best for Superstition Shake just to keep this on. Street Smarts. Gain 1 effective dodge and 25% dodge duration. Yeah, I mean, it's like a can of tuna. It's exactly what you think it is. It's good. I use it in most all of my builds. Most people do. It takes the Arbiter's shitty 3 dodge weapons and turns them into standard 4 dodge weapons. And trust me, missing out on like 25% of your total amount of dodges really fucking hurts. So you kind of, this is more or less a tax node. 25% damage versus suppressed enemies. Hello, veteran in a trench coat. Get the fuck out of here. You aren't suppressing things as this guy, and the things you are suppressing... Let's put it this way. This dude mostly uses bolt pistols, bolters, and shotguns. Things are either dead or about to die. Suppression or no. 25% suppression damage. Who gives a shit? If they survive the first shot, you fucked up. If they survive the first shot, it doesn't matter if you have 1,000% suppression damage or 0%, they're still going to die from the follow-up shot. So this doesn't really help you hit any breakpoints. Guns aren't very good to build in. It's just why, and you can't suppress melee guys. If you could suppress melee guys, maybe you could make the argument for this. Enemies staggered by your melee attacks take 15% more melee damage for 5 seconds. Thank you, Fat Shark. Very cool. Everything this guy does staggers, and this just makes everything staggered from everything this guy does take more damage. Thank you, Fat Shark. Very cool. Click here to receive your 15% damage now. Pushing grants 75% cleave for 5 seconds. I have seen some people say that they don't take this. You guys are silly billies. You don't know what you're talking... This person doesn't know what he's talking about. Like Walter White. So let's just spawn a bunch of dumbasses. And let's use this talent and let's see what it does. Okay. You know, I know, very scientific test. But you can see the amount of guys we're cleaving through is quite substantial. And here, let's get a more scientific test. I should have turned health bars on for trash mobs. That was my bad. You're going to have to forgive me for that. But I'm seeing a lot of 200s just all across the board when I heavy attack on these things. Okay, now let's take this off. And I'll let you decide. Who won? Who's next? You decide! Okay. Well, you can already see that I'm getting stopped halfway through this horde. And you can see I'm not getting nearly as many 200s. More things are surviving longer. Now let's do the test with health bars. Okay, well, I only hit 4 or 3 of them that time, not the full 4. But yeah, it just helps you clear a lot more effectively. I don't know, man, you be the judge. I notice it immediately against bigger crowds. Like, when I don't have this node against a crowd, say, of this size, which Havoc spawns bigger hordes than this, by the way, and Havoc hordes are armored, which means they need more cleave to get through. So the fact that a heavy attack doesn't even get through, like, 10, 15 poxwalkers, or I'm sorry, newly infected, not even poxwalkers, you cannot cleave through even, like, 20 of them. You're cleave capped at, like, 10 of them without this node. Then you throw this one node on, and all of a sudden, you can cleave through this entire crowd. This, like, triples your cleave limit effectively. That's insane. Especially when you consider armored shit like this. Just cleave through, like, 3 armored guys and still got, like, full damage on them. Yeah, it's very impactful. The Emperor's Fist. 15% melee damage and 30% impact on first enemy hit with each attack. Thank you, Fat Shark, for my standard 15% melee damage paycheck. I will be cashing this immediately. Yeah, this is just 15% melee damage when you're fighting single target like Crusher, bosses, etc. And those are the things that need the most damage, so you pretty much always grab it. Final warning, 15% range damage on melee staggering hits last 5 seconds. Fat Shark, what the fuck are you thinking? Okay, so you hit once with the melee, then you pull the gun out, get within range of using the gun, and still don't even one-shot. Thank you, Fat Shark. Very cool. You are aware the Veteran and the Psyker have this exact same node, but it does 25%, yeah? Why is this only 15%? Just make it 25%. It still wouldn't be used at 25%, but it at least wouldn't just be an objective downgrade to what the other classes do. Weight of the Lex. Gain 15% damage for 5 seconds after heavy melee attack. Thank you, Fat Shark, for my standard 15% melee damage paycheck. I will be cashing it immediately. Yeah, I mean, you just give them one of these. Fish some gangsters, fishing the fly girl. You just give them one of these, and all of a sudden you're hitting harder. Very cool. Target selection. Killing a pounced elite/specialist grants 15% damage versus elites and specialists last 8 seconds. Thank you for the standardized 15% damage node. I will be cashing this immediately at the Fat Shark Welfare Offices. This one's actually not very good, but the joke is pretty funny because, oh my god, there are so many of these. So yeah, you pounce on a guy, kill him. Honestly, this shouldn't be damage versus elites and specialists, and if it is going to be selective damage, it should be 25%, not 15%. Why would I ever take this for 15% damage versus half the enemies in the game when I could take this for 15% damage versus everything? Thank you, Fat Shark Balance Team. Very cool. Okay, this is a node I want to talk about. Soul Guilt Scan. Weak spot hits grant 2% weak spot strength. This node is another thank you, Fat Shark, for my standardized 15% damage node. I will be cashing this check immediately. And some people are going to say, no, it's not. It's more than 15% damage. And you are technically correct. The best kind of correct. But, let's just spawn a couple test bench crushers. And then some people to build this up on. Hold on. I'm fucking up royally. So, I haven't even taken it yet. The weak spot hits grant 2% weak spot strength. So, here's our weak spot damage normally. 802. And here's with all of our first hit buffs and stuff. 941. And let's just get, like, all of our stuff fully stacked up. We do 1007. Wait, I just realized this testing is terrible. Hold on. Let's cut the tapes on this one. Let me retry that. I just immediately, maybe I should write scripts for these. So without any buffs procced, let's try to remove variables as far as we can to really emphasize the point here. That would have been, oh no, I would have been wrong on the internet. That would be embarrassing. I guess I kill myself. So we do 715. Now, let's stack this up all the way. And you're going to have to forgive the fact that we have, well, no, actually, hold on. We can, hold on. You know what? Just because I don't want to be wrong, we can do it like this. There we go. Now it's art. Bold and brash, more like belongs in the trash. We still do 715. Very cool. Thank you. So, 715, and now we do a bunch of weak spot hits. Okay, it's fully stacked up, and now we do 829. I am going to pull out a motherfucking calculator on the spot. I was going to do this with a different set of buffs. That's what I had written down in my notes. But it's cool. We can do it like this for a mere pure test. What were my numbers again? 715 versus what? Versus 829. So 715 plus 15% is 821. It's literally like another fucking 15% damage node. I'm not even shitting you. Just, you need to build up to it. And it's only on weak spot. And it is strength, so it's a little better than damage. But at the end of the day, it's still just another 15% damage node. Thank you, Fat Shark. Very cool. Fat Shark, this is the 17th time you've brought plus 15% arbiter damage to the school, whatever. To the show and tell. This is the 15th time you've brought 15% damage to the show and tell. 15% clip size rounded up. I mean, I don't even know what to say. It's one shotgun shell. Yippee! 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 Like, okay. It's one shotgun shell. I'd rather have another 15% damage slop, please. He doesn't even get anything cool, like a double barrel shotgun. He can make it into a triple barrel shotgun, like the veteran. He doesn't even get... Oh, wait, I'm stupid? He does. Hold on. This works. That's right, because all clip size increases make this go up by 1. Never mind. Never mind. I take it back. Let's say some gangsta is dissing your fly girl. Just give him one of these. So I guess you can triple barrel arbites with absolutely no buffs and absolutely no support for it. Beware. Base chads only. I mean, you know it's a shitty node. I know it's a shitty node. We can at least try to have fun with it, right? 15% damage to enemies of... Oh my god, I need to fucking develop a smoking and drinking habit. Thank you, Fat Shark, for the 15% priority damage node. Thank you, very cool. Okay, so this is 15% damage node number 17,858,000. But, yeah, this one's kind of bad because above 75% health, who cares about 15% damage? And at the moment, so what? This is... this is insert any number of nodes down here, but with the condition that it's only active for a quarter of their health bar. The other ones are active the entire health bar. Thank you, Fat Shark. Very cool. I get that you can only make so many ways to say gain 15% damage. Have you considered maybe just making some of these 15% damage nodes, I don't know, something else? Anyway. Oh, we already did that one. Okay. Your Cyber Mastiffs apply 6 stacks of brittleness on attack. This is not terrible. Though I really wish it was like this, where it did it on pounce instead of on attack. This means you... Here, let me just give you a live... Let me give you a live reaction of what this actually means. So let me get rid of all this. Rid of this. Let's take this. Let's take this, 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 and this. And you know what? Let's take this stuff as well, just to really be generous. So we do 747 like this on hit. Let's... No. Now we do 1100. Hold on. Let me get rid of these buffs. Damn, stupid fucking dog. You're making me look bad. So we do what now? What was it? Like 7 something? Okay, so with those 5 stacks, we do 812. And then with the brittleness in the 5 stacks... Sorry, that wasn't with just the 5 stacks. Dude, can you settle down? I'm trying to let my buffs wear off here, bro. Okay, so with no buffs, we do 747. And then we let the buffs wear off. 747. And now we do however much this is about to be. 945. So yeah, the brittleness is like a 30-ish something % damage increase versus a single crusher. Not bad, but I also wouldn't go out of my way or use the dog for it. You know, if it did that in an AoE, then that would actually maybe be good enough to justify using just on its own. Like, this would retroactively justify using the dog on its own. Prosecution blow. 20% rending on ranged critical strike. Why did it have to be ranged critical strike? You could possibly make the argument for this if it was on melee critical strike. Ranged critical strike kills this. I have never seen anyone use this. I didn't even use this to experiment. I'm going to say with 100% confidence, without even having tried it, that this is terrible. Because I don't need to try it to know this is terrible. Because when the fuck are you shooting crushers as the arbiter? And when you are shooting them with your gun, well, how often are you critting them? If you were going to shoot a crusher as the arbiter, maybe the only way I could possibly see this being good, right? Like, the only way is if you're using a revolver with hand cannon and you're using this to get that 80% rending. I don't even know if that's a viable thing for this class, like if it's ammo efficient in any way. I'm just spitballing some way to maybe make this useful. March, 15% movement speed on ranged hit, last 3 seconds, abysmal dog shit, thank you, very cool. I mean, I'd rather just use no escape. Okay, thanks. 20% damage to ogrins and monstrosities. Well, it's better than 15%, I guess. But yeah, you kind of always take this. This class really struggles with monstrosities, and crushers give it a hard time because no uncanny. So this is just 20% priority damage to the things you desperately need damage against. Strike down. 15% melee rending on staggered enemies is not horrible, actually. Okay, this is actually not the worst thing in the world. Hold on. Let me explain for a minute. So let me build up some crit chance. This is not a particularly effective way to build up some crit chance. I'm going to be real with you. Alright, I'm going to be real with you, Shinzo Abe. This shit is not fixing that declining birth rate. Okay, let me build up some stacks. And then let me show you what I'm talking about. Because this talent isn't necessarily the best, but I am growing kind of fond of it in Havoc. Alright, so we do 2,500 damage on a crit with this. Whereas, if we take this off and then rebuild, so remember that, 2,500 damage on a crit with it. Now let's try to build everything up again. And then we'll see what we do. 2,588 with versus whatever the hell this number's about to be without. 1,600. It's an insane damage increase. That right there, if I'm gonna run execution order into efficient killer, I'm very tempted to always take strike down. No lie. Just going from 1,600 to 2,500 damage crits is kind of nuts. killing a Crusher in like 3 hits with Arbiter feels fucking amazing. This is the exact opposite of Rending Strikes. Whereas Rending Strikes is terrible and you should almost never use it, Strike Down is amazing, and I think you probably should always use it if you're taking Efficient Killer. You know, if you're going Zealous Efficient Killer and you're getting, you're getting up to like 35-ish% crit chance on your mace, you can make the argument that this is actually a really good node. And True Grit. This is what a lot of people have been waiting for. I have thought long and hard about this node. I've taken many showers. I, in fact, took a shower to think about this node. Got out of the shower, started writing down notes about what I was going to say about this node. Then I got back in the shower so I could shower talk to myself more about this node. Then I came back, went to bed, woke up, and took another shower so I could have another conversation about this. Okay, look. This node is very controversial. There is a group of people that swear that you should always take it, and if you don't, you are a retard who should die. I am very in the middle on this node. I'm not going to tell you whether you should use True Grit or not. I'm instead going to give you a formula to objectively prove whether you should use this or not. Because this is what I did to decide my stance on it. I took about 10-20 games of Havoc 40 where I made a mental note of every single time I got hit, be it by a trash mob, elite, whatever. And I put it on an Excel spreadsheet. How much damage did that do to me? You can even receive a detailed damage breakdown through like Power DI and stuff if you want to make this even easier. There's also the one mod now that just tells you what you took damage from and stuff. So like you can it's not like I'm just eyeballing it and guessing and fucking up and making numbers up and shit. So I made a spreadsheet of just every attack that I took through like 10 Havoc 40s. Then I looked at the number of attacks that were over 50 damage. So what I did is I took all the attacks, I took all of their damage numbers, wrote all that down, like in each column in an Excel spreadsheet. Then I looked at how many of those attacks, if I were using True Grit, would have been reduced down to 50, and how much that reduction, this is the important part. After it reduces it to 50, how much health did it save me per attack? You can do this yourself. Record every hit you take in a Havoc run, or use a mod to do it for you. And put all those numbers in one column in Excel. Like, I got hit this much by this. Then in the next column over, put the damage interval of that attack in there. Say, I got hit by a Poxwalker for 33 damage. I got hit by a boss overhead for 90 damage, etc. And then make the third column True Grit 50 as the theoretical cap. And then look at your output. See if the number was reduced at all, and if so, how much. And then, per game, tally up how much health did True Grit save you. I personally did this myself. Then I went a level deeper, and I converted how much health it saved me into a percent of damage reduction. Because really, that's what you'd be using this for. You're looking at it as a form of damage reduction. What? If this was instead a damage reduction talent, what percent equivalent of DR would this be? So that's basically your formula. Hit, damage, True Grit cap, final number, convert into percent if DR. You know, like what percent DR would you need? So, okay. I'm explaining this in a very bad way. I might actually just make a standalone video on how to do this if you're curious. So it's like you take the hits, the damage, the True Grit, the final number reduction, then you take that number, the final number for that game, and convert it, like figure out what percent DR would you need to take the total of the damage you took without True Grit to reach the amount total that you ended up with because you took True Grit? That's actually a very easy formula to figure out how much percent DR True Grit is most of the time. You're not going to like my number. For me, on average, it was about 4 to 10% DR. On most games, it was sub 10 DR, which is terrible. I would not. Would you spend a skill point if True Grit instead? Now, this is a node that is incredibly dependent on playstyle, experience, like personal experience with the node, and how much you value never getting one shot. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer for this. For me, I'm doing nerd shit math and trying to math out how much this node gives me if it were instead a DR node. And I've determined that at my personal skill level, in my personal experience, this node is usually never worth running. For me, in my experience, personally. You may have a completely different experience with this node. I can understand if you told me that you always use True Grit because it removes the mental stack of dying to some random crusher that charged up an overhead in the back of a pack you didn't even see. It removes that bullshit, or like it removes getting overheaded downstairs, and that peace of mind allows you to make more aggressive plays. I think that's a valid perspective. Personally, I use this node on and off. Sometimes I use it, and a lot of times I use it, and I get maybe like 5 or 6 attacks that get reduced from like maybe 65 or 70 damage down into 50. And I'm like, this feels fucking stupid. It's a complete waste of a talent point. Then there are runs where I suck, and I get hit by like 2 overheads. You know, I'm like sleepy, I just got out of the shower, I want to record some B-roll, and I get double overheaded, and I'm like, oh, thank fucking God I had True Grit on. In my personal experience, True Grit is better the worse you are at dealing with the pressure of snipers and crushers. And the better you are at managing variables in high pressure situations, the worse True Grit is. That has been my personal experience with the node. If you have a different personal experience with this node, I'm not going to shit on you for it. I'm not going to be like, oh, you're a fucking idiot, blah, 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 blah. Because I truly do believe this is a node that can really shine sometimes, but you also have to accept the possibility of this node sometimes just barely doing anything at all. Is that fair? I think that's really fair. Because I can straight up show you games where it activated one time for me in Havoc 40, and it's like, why did I even take this? Okay? That's the True Grit spiel. It's probably going to get its own video at some point. Okay, let's talk Keystones. Execution order. Let's remove some of this stuff so we have some points to take these. Periodically mark elites, specialists, and bosses for killing. Killing them replenishes 15% toughness. This is a thing, but on crack. This is the Fat Shark special of make a thing, but better. Because, like, for some reason, it can mark more than one target. See? Oh, no, guys. True Grit. Oh, True Grit. It's so good. No, I'm just fucking joking. But seriously, though. Like, this node can do shit like this, where it just marks multiple guys. Oh, no. -7 dodges, dude. But, it can just, like, mark a bunch of shit. Here, let me spawn a few more. So, this will work through walls, and it just kind of keeps stacking like this. So, this completely hard counters the need of a flashlight in the 1 modifier. And you can just straight up see these guys through walls as well, so to know what's coming before you get there. So, it's like, you know, it's pretty good in that regard. Way better than Disrupt Destiny, which is the thing everybody compares it to. Now let's talk about the actual effect of the node. Getting 15% toughness back Easy. Good. Nice. Cyber Mastiff gains 150% damage. Fat Shark, I feel like we need to establish relative value. Today I will take 25% damage, plus 50% damage, plus a bleed that averages out to being like 10% extra damage, plus an electric dot that averages out to being like 50% damage. Today I will spend 5 skill points to make my Cyber Mastiff do like 100% more damage. Clueless. This one Keystone automatically makes 90% of the other dog nodes fucking useless. Because you only need this one for it to do basically the same breakpoints as all those other nodes put together. So I feel like someone at Fat Shark needs a lesson in relativistic value, because this shit is not it, man. Anyway, you gain 10% damage and 10% attack speed for 8 seconds. That is really good. 10% attack speed here, 10% attack speed here, 10% attack speed here. You know, you're like attacking faster than like the typical zealot is at this point. This is a really strong Keystone. Now, I'm going to say another controversial. Oh boy. I think Execution Order is better than Forceful. And we're going to talk more about that when Forceful we get to it. Execution Order. So, Efficient Killer is really nice. Honestly, Efficient Killer into Strike Down, this has quickly become like one of my favorite go-tos on Havoc Rotten Armor. I personally notice... Oh, excuse me. I thought we'd go a video without me dying. Anyway, I have personally noticed I kill packs of Crushers roughly like 30% faster with these two nodes on Havoc 40, which is kind of invaluable. Take from that what you will. I recommend not taking my word for it, and I recommend trying it in a game and seeing it yourself. I am confident enough in my own perception of how good it is that you will say, oh, yeah, you know what? This is actually pretty decent. Maybe you won't have that experience. Maybe you're going to be like, this fucking sucks, you idiot. But hey, it's worth trying. Mallocator is fucking... This is retard maxing to the extreme. This is so strong. Just look. So we pop this... And then we kill this guy. How do you survive with 1 health, dude? Look at that. Look at how fast it ticks down. And look at how long it lasts. This is why most people don't run CDR on this guy. Because just like 1 kill without CDR, that's kind of enough to just like get you the ult back. You know? That's why I don't personally recommend CDR on this character, which is the first time I've ever said those words. Even though I still use it, I don't really recommend it because it's just unnecessary. And this is borderline mandatory if you're going to use the other 2 ultimates because of their long-ass cooldowns. It's not necessary with Break the Line, but oh my god, it makes it so much better. And considering this is one of your biggest individual damage increases and is just an amazing stun that you want to use on cooldown as much as possible, really hard to pass up this value. You gain 10% rending for 8 seconds after a marked kill. Okay, the difference between 10% rending and 5% rending is 50% difference. This is a hard sell. But this is 25% rending. And it is pretty consistent. I personally don't like No Lenience and Strike Down. If No Lenience was also 15% rending or maybe even 20% rending because, you know, it's a Keystone thing, I would be all over this. I would be taking it all the time. I wish this was 20%, this is 15%. Let me get 35% rending. Fat Shark! Make this 20% rending and my life is yours! You know, kind of deal. But that would probably be way too overpowered. These combined get something like this going on, and now you fucking, you know, destroy Ogrins. Like, honestly, it might even be worth it to give these up just to go like this. You know, something like this is like, dude, this is like peak Ogrin racism right here. You know, even drop this. This shit right here, this is like day in the life of a true Ogrin KKK member, you know, type shit going on. This is fucked up, dude. Don't do the Ogrins like this. Gain 10% movement speed and 10% damage for 5 seconds after a pounce. This is good. It's solid. I really wish it was 10%, 10 seconds. Fat Shark, please stop making 5% buffs like this. I know that's your way of balancing them for uptime purposes, but it's really not fun to have to constantly micromanage something literally every other second to make sure the buff is active. Fat Shark, can we establish a rule? If a buff is substantial and greater than 20 or 20% or greater, you're allowed to have 5 seconds that needs to be repeatedly activated and managed. If a buff is 10% or less, it should have like a 15 fucking second activation limit. And it should not be something, that should be the trade-off, right? If it's 10% or less, you shouldn't have to think about maintaining it. If it's 20% or more, you should have to think about maintaining it. Can we agree to that? Because when you've got this 5-second buff and this 5-second buff and this 5-second buff, you're thinking like that we're not talking about this. We're talking about this, you know? All in all, execution order, super solid, super good. I personally think it's the best Keystone. We got beef, motherfucker. Look at how they massacred my boy weapon specialist. This is in contention for worst Keystone in the game. What were they thinking? I have tried so hard to make the case that, come on guys, it's not that bad. You can make it work. No, the fuck you cannot. The best you can do with this is make it go from sucking ass to sucking eggs. That's the best you could do with this. So basically, the way this works is like weapon specialist, where ranged attacks give you melee stacks, and melee attacks give you ranged stacks. The melee stacks give you 15% damage and impact. Whoop-de-fucking-do, it's another 15% damage. And ranged stacks give you range damage, cleave, and suppression. Okay, first off, why doesn't this give melee cleave as well? It's weird that it gives more buffs to ranged when this guy is terrible at ranged. But this is automatically a non-starter, no-go, no good. It is a very long and terrible chain you are making. Because we can do like this. We get 7 stacks. Then we walk up to a crowd of enemies, and every single attack takes a stack away. It's just not good because of that, man. Just change that one aspect and it would be good. Seriously. Just make it cap at like 10 stacks and make each individual attack only take 1 stack. This is so fucking clunky to try and use. It ends up being dog shit. And the buffs aren't even that good. 15% damage? Gee, that sounds fucking familiar. While you have stacks of ranged justice, you have 20%. I can't hear the words ranged justice and not think of the Fortnite dance orange justice. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You fucked up calling it this. I keep thinking of that stupid Fortnite dance. But 20% reload speed. We have already established. Where is it? Where is it? That 20% reload speed is like whatever. I don't even know where it is. Okay, 40% reload speed with the shotgun. Surely it's good. Okay, so we kill one of these guys, build up a stack, and then reload. Surely that changes how you play with the class. Surely it must be good. No, we both know this isn't good. It's just, he doesn't need reload speed. He needs more oomph with the guns. Swapping to your melee weapon while you have 15 melee stacks or more grants you 15% attack speed because we all know this class is short on attack speed. Until you run out of stacks or swap to your ranged weapon. Okay, that's pretty good. Swapping to your ranged weapon gives you 15% ranged until you swap, whatever, same thing, just in reverse. Okay, sure. I mean, I guess we can show off what this is like. Here's 6 bullets without it. And here's your attack speed without it. Build up to 15 stacks. And now let's show you the demonstration like this. Hold on. So we still have the stacks. We can reload. We should be good. Yeah, I mean, it is like a little bit noticeable, but do you really care? And here's your attack speed with these stacks. It's actually pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. But, like, then you run out of stacks, and then you have to swap, and then it becomes impossible to actually keep this up. It's just so fucking clunky. Swapping to your melee weapon is faster than reloading. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. While at 30 stacks, grants you 15% melee rending. Okay, that's decent. You know, this plus this is 30% rending, which is actually worth it, unlike rending strikes. Or swap to your ranged weapon. Swapping to your ranged weapon grants 25% critical strike damage and 25% weak spot damage. How the fuck are you planning on getting those critical strikes if you don't invest in the left? The left has all the critical strike stuff. Why is this critical strikes? It just makes no sense. Nothing about this supports critical strikes in any way ever. And then they just randomly are like, by the way, you also need to invest in crit to get the full value out of this. And you're just left there scratching your head like a fucking orangutan. Like, what? Huh? You know, like, what? Where did that come from? Yeah, the 15% melee rending is cool. Like, I'm not gonna lie. This is fine. You do something like this. This is okay at best against Crushers in Havoc 40. Alright, you build up your 50 stacks. Right, you build up your 50 stacks, and then you just kind of go to town on this guy. And look at this. You could just straight M1 this guy to death with this much rending. Look at that. 3,200 DPS on a Crusher with just M1 spam. Like, it's a way you can try to attempt to use it. Is it good? Fuck no. Look. 6,500. We did it. We got the Arbiter to do 6,500 DPS with M1. You got to use your ult, have one of the worst Keystones, fully stack it up, invest in 2 other nodes specifically for synergy with it, and then you can finally do what the Veteran does in one stab of the Dueling Sword or the Power Sword, or what the Psyker does in one stab of the Dueling Sword or the Force Sword, or what the Ogryn does in one stab of the Pickaxe, or what the Zealot does in one hit of the Thunderhammer. Do you get my point yet? You have to invest all of this to get the Arbiter to do Crusher DPS equivalent to what literally every other class does instantly. Okay. Sure. While you have stacks of Justice melee, you gain an additional 100% melee regen. Allies and Coherency replenish 25% of any toughness that you replenish. It's fine. Perfectly acceptable. I don't really have much to comment on. There's nothing hidden. There's nothing secret about it. It's just, you know. Like, the Keystone is... Okay. This Keystone is good in theory, but clunky as fuck to use in practice. I don't know if the stacks need to be reduced, the total number of stacks. I think they need to reduce the total number of stacks, and I think they need to change how many stacks gets consumed on an attack. Add a cap to it. Give us, seriously, just make it take 1 stack per attack, and make us have like 10 stacks. If you did that, this would be a fine Keystone. It would, honestly, it would actually be pretty good. Because, did you see that rending shit I just did? Like, that would actually be very useful in Havoc 40s. Like, legitimately, that is good damage. Because, let's look at your damage without this for a second. Hold on. Let me just show you your damage without this whole kit and caboodle for a minute. And then we do this, go over to this guy. You know, you're looking at like 1,900 DPS, like maximum. See? So to go from 1,900 DPS to anywhere from 4,500 to 6,500 DPS, you can kill 3 Crushers with this setup in the time it takes every other popular arbites build to kill 1. That is game-changing in Havoc 40. But it feels so fucking bad. You never want to pull this shit out. You never want to pull this out. Okay, the final Keystone, Forceful. I don't like this Keystone. I'm just going to come out and say it. I think it's silly Billy behavior to take the tanking Keystone on the tanking class. It's the exact same reason why it's silly Billy behavior to do this on Ogryn. You're already super tanky without this. I guess you need to be that much more tanky for some reason. Staggered hits and blocked attacks grant stack of Forceful, lasting 5 seconds and stacking 10 times. Each stack gives 5% impact and 2.5 damage resistance, remove stack on damage taken. Literally, it's like the Ogryn talent. The Ogryn Keystone, Feel No Pain, is fucking terrible. This is also a pretty bad Keystone effect. The only time this Keystone effect is actually good is specifically versus Gunners in Havoc 40. You stack this and like all this other shit, and you get like an extra split second to move to cover. Now, to some people, that's very strong. I have mixed opinions on it. At max stacks and 3 seconds afterwards, gain stun immunity. Additionally, your perfect blocks can block all attacks. This is a Keystone modifier I personally hate, but it's actually pretty good. The way this works, here, let me show you some shit that you can do with this. Because there's a way to utilize this that not many people do. Just a shame you gotta, you know, keep all these stacks up to show it off. So we want to turn off respawn. And then delete these guys. And then add a couple of these guys. Now you've got all of these stacks. And now if you need to do like this, you know, it like makes it so you can... I'm literally pressing the wrong button. Holy shit. Sorry. I fucked my demonstration all up. But like, it makes it so you can just like get out for free. Like every single time. Versus pretty much anything. Just like, we out of here. And it even does it when your stacks wear off, which is like the nice thing. Your stacks wear off. What? Melk? Leave. But yeah, it's okay. Personally, I think stun immunity is a skill issue. I also think I meant to be pressing the dodge button. I kept pressing the weapon special button. That's what was going on there. I swapped them. I swapped their key binding, so I kept pressing the old one. Anyway, it's like, okay, you can spam perfect blocks to try and get out of a sticky situation. Stun immunity is fine if you like it. I think it's a skill issue, though, if you like it. I personally, I'm between you and me, every single time I've taken this Keystone, I have never felt it do anything. I guess I'm just the fucking darktide messiah, and I just don't notice stun immunity. But I don't die any more or less with or without it. To me, it's just a dead effect. Will of the Lex. Replenish 0.5 toughness each second per stack. This is okay. Let me lose my toughness. Let me Skyrim combat this guy for a second. Okay, now with 10 stacks, let's show you what this is like. Yeah, I mean, it's okay. I personally don't use it because the way I look at it is this guy already has literally a million ways to generate about approximately 578 million quadrillion 1,820 toughness per second. This is good if you're stuck behind cover getting gunned out and like you just need toughness back to make a play. This is pretty good. This is a lot of people, they like to build their arbiters something like this. And this is good if you want to like never run into any possible skill issues and you never want to think. If you want the brain dead arbiter experience where you just hold W plus M1 through a level and you kind of just win, this is it right here. This is exactly what you do. But I think anyone who is intellectually honest can admit that theoretically, with high enough level play, you don't need any of these things for their intended effects. They're not necessarily required. They just remove any possibility of fucking up. Which to some people, they value that. Personally, for me, I like to try and constantly improve to where I can win consistently without these tools. I find that ends up being a lot better both for my personal skill, and it just leads to a stronger overall build that can handle more situations than these. But what do I know? I've only been in the film industry for 35 years. That's an ancient reference. No one's gonna get that. Holy shit. While at max stacks and for 3 seconds afterwards, gain 10% attack speed and 50% cleave. Yeah, I mean, it's 10% attack speed. You certainly take that, all right. On combat ability, gain 2.5% strength for each stack. Last 12 seconds, removes all stack. Okay, this is where I start to like Forceful a lot. Something like this. Because now, you can take these. See, this is why I like to give up True Grit and very rarely Rebreather. Because you can start making builds that are kind of like this. Where, you know, CDR plus this, you know, leverage the attack speed to try and build like, you know, this is not a good example because Ragers are not the guys you want to be building stacks on. Use all this attack speed to, oh shit, hold on. Use all the attack speed to try and like leverage, you know, leverage like the stack gain. Or just use a fucking shock mine, because this is another way to gain stacks. Leverage the stack gain, spend it on this, and then use, like, Malkador plus CDR to... Because, look, already back at way 10 stacks, way before this ran out. If I was using Malkador and CDR, I would have, like, very little downtime on these stacks. And that's a way to turn this ability into straight-up 50% damage. Look at that. My light attacks are doing over 1,000 damage now. That actually is very strong, and I'm quite fond of that. I actually do firmly believe, well, obviously you can't use Malkador and this, so I would just CDR. But yeah, just CDR plus targeted brutality, you can honestly maintain like 80% uptime on these stacks. Though, you do have to not crutch on the damage resistance to stay alive, which you shouldn't be in the first place. Stagger at nearby enemies upon reaching 0 stacks or 10 stacks, 5 seconds cooldown. Oh my god, who gives a shit? Nah, like actually. This is just bad. You're already staggering everything just for existing. Now this literally, dude, this is like a Diablo 2 aura that you'd put on like the Act 2 mercenary. You don't need this. You already stagger everything with every other attack. It's just not impactful. Literally, play one game with this yourself, and you're going to say, ooh, yeah, that is pretty bad. Okay, now that's everything for build. Now let's talk weapons. The arbites Shock Maul is generally considered the best weapon, and generally you're going to want flak, carapace, and high voltage as absolute for sures. Worth noting for this weapon, if you do an attack, and then, or sorry, if you do a special attack, swap your weapon and swap back, it's bugged, and the electric shock effect stays on it always, and you never need to do it again. This, honestly, Fetchark, can I be honest with you? You should totally fix this, but at the same time, just make this Shock Maul, get rid of this shit. This shit feels bad to use. It doesn't scale very well with attack speed. It's not very good, and it's not very fun. Fetchark, if I could make a suggestion, you know that fancy new system you made for the Relic Blade that everybody fucking absolutely loves? Can you just make that how this works? I press the alt fire, and it's like, and now it's just a bar that fills up every time I attack. It would actually be a skill element to know when to turn it on and when to use it. You know, it's like you're making the arbites use 1% of their brain, which is something it desperately needs right now. Don't remove the ability to stagger everything with every attack, because that would actually be a huge nerf to his damage and control output. Just make it something that's not available all the time without thinking, you know? I think that would be good. I personally like Relentless Strikes on this because, one, I'm a dirty scrub that spams M1 and doesn't actually use combos because, I mean, come on, dude, this isn't Vermintide. But this ends up being like 50% strength on things like crushers, bosses, which ends up being more important than the 20% strength versus other stuff. What is my hard-drawn button? Here it is. So if we like re-bless this, another thing people do is this execution, because everything you do staggers everything you touch. You got a bit of a King Midas thing going on. The other popular weapon, I probably don't even have one, but I can just straight up tell you from Brunt's Armory. This is okay. The Rashid Combat Axe, insane, really good. The Crusher is really good. Tactical Axe is one of the best weapons in the game. People who say otherwise don't know what they're talking about. The Shock Maul is great for support and utility for your team. Really, you can't go wrong with any of his weapons. I think the Shock Maul and Shield is terrible, and I think the Assault Chainsword is also pretty bad. But I think this is the best. This is the second best. This is the third best. This is the fourth best. This is the fifth best. And I honestly think this is clearly like the best out of all of them. And then the rest of these are fighting in A tier. And then these are both in like fighting in B. As far as guns go, IAGs suck now. Rip the 2 years ago meta. The shotgun is good, but I'm going to say something a lot of people aren't ready for this conversation. This shotgun sucks. This mark, this is not good. And that right there is why it's not good. It's so inconsistent on when it can actually snipe something. Look, even if you get a headshot from 14 meters away with all your damage buffs procced, it just doesn't snipe a gunner. Look at that. Look at that. It doesn't even kill a maniac in one hit from like 10 feet away with most of the pellets headshotting. This is not... If you want a sniper... And then I kill it with body shot. Do you want to put a potentially game-winning snipe on a critical special in the hands of RNG? If you're fine with that, go for it. If you are absolutely not fine with that, like I'm not, stay away from this thing like the plague. I get that it has brittleness. I get that brittleness is very important. Yeah, the brittleness is pretty good. Like, I get that. I get that. However, I think the shock shells are a million times better than the brittleness shells because the brittleness ends up not mattering that much. Hold on. Here, let's put this to bed right now. Putting the baby in the cradle. So, hold on, what? 1,400-ish damage there. We do 11 to 1,400, depending on what we have stacked up. We pop brittleness... and he fucking dies, ruining the demonstration. Okay, so look. We pop brittleness. We wait for the buffs to wear off. And then we pop brittleness. And then we do, like, 1,200 damage. Whereas we let the buffs fall off to give you a point of reference. So, like, 1,300-ish damage versus 1,100. 200 damage extra on a crusher, like, okay, you know, like, it's not terrible or anything. But... the fact that you can only really hit one crusher at a time with this shell, and it's only marginally useful at best? No, it's terrible. Avoid it. It's inconsistent at what and when it can snipe. The special shell is nowhere near as useful as people think it is. Would you rather have the ability to stall out, like, 3 or 4 crushers in a choke point for, like, you know, however long these shells are going to last you? And also the insane damage output of this shotgun and the ability, nice miss, retard, and the ability to just straight up kill, like, you know, like 20 plus trash mobs and a bunch of berserkers and shotgunners. Would you rather, what sounds better to you? Like 10% brittleness, inconsistent elite sniping from very close ranges versus more damage, near unlimited crowd control for free, the ability to clear hordes of anything, elites and trash mobs. You know, which of those two things sounds better to you? And the worst part is, if you want to snipe, just, like, use a bolt pistol. This is a random-ass unrolled bolt pistol in my inventory, and look at that. It killed them in 2 shots just like the shotgun did. Okay? This thing meets the same breakpoints as the shotgun while being infinitely times better than it. In fact, this can reach more one-shot breakpoints than the shotgun has and is more consistent. If you want to snipe specials, just use the bolt pistol. It's just better. The bolt pistol, it's just better. The stub revolver is the revolver. You know it, I know it, it's pretty good. Vigilance are terrible. They're just bad. Shredder auto pistol is literally the worst gun in the game. Braced autos are also pretty terrible. Basically, if it shoots a bullet and it's not a shotgun, it's probably bad. Or a revolver. If it doesn't have a 60% rending blessing on it, and it's not a shotgun and it shoots bullets, it's bad in the current metagame. The combat shotguns are kind of okay, but there's no reason to ever use them over the exterminators unless you're just like trying to be different and special. Same with the double barrel, no reason to use it over exterminator unless you're trying to be special and different. I tried the shot pistol and riot shield. I hated it. I thought this was one of the worst guns in the entire game. Now, you might disagree with me, but I hate this goddamn weapon. I've tried using it multiple times, and every time I'm like, wow, this thing sucks. It's mediocre at sniping. Hold on, let me try to kill range guy. It's not just mediocre, it's fucking terrible, actually, at sniping. On account of it being... It didn't even one-shot that guy from, like, 10 meters away. Doesn't even one-shot this guy from 8 meters away. So... It fails at being a sniper. It fails at being a close-range crowd control gun because of its slug-like properties. So, it fails at sniping things from even, like, 10 meters away. So, it fails at its single-target removal job. It fails at any possible use of being a shotgun in terms of just removing things in a wide arc. So, it fails at sniping, it fails at shotgunning, and it doesn't have the ammo, so it fails at ammo efficiency. Like, why? It just ends... Like, look at this. This is the range you want to be using it in. It still doesn't one-shot to the body from here. Goddamn! At least the Exterminator has... The Exterminator has more ammo than this and deals, like, 30% more damage. Why would you ever use this? I guess maybe it's okay if you are so gunner skill issued that you need the ability to very inefficiently remove gunners while not taking damage. If you are so skill issued by gunners that sounds good to you, then I guess there's a valid use case for it right there. But god damn do I personally not like it. Also, this looks like shit. I have to be honest. This is one of the worst animations Fat Shark has ever made. Which is weird because usually they're good at animation. Oh yeah, and its armor damage sucks too. Like, goddamn. You know that one song, I hate everything about you. That's how I feel with this gun, dude. That's actually how I feel with this thing. Maybe I'm gonna get a bunch of comments saying I just don't understand it and it's like Twilight and you just gotta give Edward another chance, bro. But like, I don't know, man. This shit is not good. And I don't think you're gonna be able to convince me otherwise. Okay, now let's talk Curios. There are 2 ways to run Curios on Arbiter. You can run max health. You can run 1 max health, 2 toughness. Each Curio rolled max health on them. If you do that, you will then reach another True Grit breakpoint in Havoc 40. You'll be able to take 1 more True Grit and survive with like 10 health left. So if you value True Grit, then you should be running it like this. If you do not value True Grit, you should instead run triple toughness Curios. And personally, I like to run triple toughness Curios with toughness, CDR, and sometimes max health on them as well, sometimes revive speed. I'll go like toughness, basically run any combination of this. Toughness, CDR, revive speed, gunner damage resistance. Or max health, potentially. Really, any combination of that has pros and cons. Most people will tell you run toughness, revive speed, gunner damage resistance on this guy. That is what most people are going to tell you. Personally, I don't feel the impact of gunner damage resistance at all. But maybe that's just me. All right, that covers just about everything about this character. Now, why did I say at the start I don't think he's like overpowered or anything or even top 1? Because what does he do better than the rest of the cast? Psyker is better at dealing with crowds than he is, like killing them. Psyker is also better at killing armor than he is. Veteran is better at killing bosses than him, better at killing crowds than him with the power sword, better at killing crushers than him. Okay. The Arbiter is the best crowd controller in the game. You want one Arbiter in your team always, but you don't ever want more than one. Because more than one Arbiter, they start doing the same thing as one another. When one Arbiter can lock down an entire like horde event by himself. So a second one ends up just being a complete waste. They do not do more damage than Psyker or Veteran. They do not do more priority damage than them to major targets. So look at it this way. His guns are not as good at sniping elites and specials as the Veteran. So the Veteran is better at dealing with armor, better at dealing with bosses, better at dealing with critical specialists that might end the game like bombers. You cannot argue that. The Veteran is just objectively better at that. Power sword, crack grenades, plasma gun. The Veteran also has better ultimates than him. So Veteran can kill bosses faster than he can with just crack grenades or just the power sword. God forbid he uses both at the same time. He can deal with crushers better than him. Mark, power sword, mark, dueling sword, one shot every crusher you see. Cracks, kill like 3 crushers, you get 4 of them now throwing them. Gold toughness is the most broken thing in the game, we all know that. So now look at the Psyker. The Psyker kills hordes about twice as good as the Arbiter can. The Psyker can kill 10 crushers in the time the Arbiter kills like 2. The Arbiter's kind of just better than boss damage. I will say, Psyker can be better at boss damage than the Arbiter if you take the one node on Brain Burst that lets you Brain Burst basically for free. The thing where you go like pew, 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 after ulting. That lets you just do like 10 Brain Bursts back to back. Each one does like 5,000 damage on a boss. You can actually take half a boss's health off in 10 seconds with Psyker. I plan on showing that off in the Psyker breakdown video. And that's like, honestly, better boss damage than this guy's going to get. Melee Psyker's better in melee than this guy is. Smite is technically better crowd control than this, though I would argue that because Shock Mines let you move around. And he's competing with Ogren for consistent crowd control, while still being able to output big damage and be hard to kill. There is no way you can logic this guy into being the best character in the game right now. Unless you are one of those people that like only plays this game for ego purposes and you have like 5,000 hours and you just live to like clutch situations and like post those clips to your like 100 subscriber YouTube. Those are the only guys that I see that insist this is the most broken class in the game, Fat Shark is stupid, etc. Everyone else I see, they lose just as many games with this guy as they do with everyone else. Now, you can say the entire community sucks and is dog shit, and I know that's what these people do say in their own servers and stuff, but I don't think that's true. I think he's just not, I just think he's just not overpowered. Like, yeah, he lets you get away with plays you have no business surviving that would kill anyone else, but is just surviving a situation actually gonna win you the game? Yeah, maybe if you and your friend are good enough to true duo the Havoc 40, yeah, maybe he does feel really overpowered. But for 99% of people, and in the larger team-based context, I think Arbiter is the best solo character in the game. I think he is literally perfectly average tier. He is literally the definition of a B tier character in a group. Because the biggest thing holding him back is the fact that more than one Arbiter feels like a waste. Because anything you're doing as the Arbiter that isn't standing on the front line, holding back the tide from your team to give them space to work with, kind of just feels like you're a dumbass. And think about it. Okay, let's say you pull back from the front lines to fight a boss with your team. Okay, well, Veteran does that better. Psyker can do that better. Ogryn does that better. Zealot does that way better. You're like literally the worst class in the game at doing that, so you should never do that. But if you have two Arbiters, one of you kind of has to do that. And it feels really bad. Okay, let's say there's a pack of Crushers coming. You can crowd control them for like 50 seconds consecutively. That's super valuable. Nobody denies that. But they still need to die. And the Veteran that one-shots them with his power sword just kills like 7 of them by the time you've killed like 2. While the Psyker's flame staffing the entire rest down. So you play a very important role, but if there's another Arbiter and you both throw a shock mine down, you've achieved nothing. One of you just wasted it and you feel stupid. Meanwhile, both of you are bonking away at the Crushers, and by the time each of you have killed 2 Crushers, the one Veteran has outkilled you both. The one Zealot has outkilled you both. The one Psyker has mega outkilled you both. The only one who maybe doesn't outkill you is like the Ogryn, and even then I don't think that's true. Stalling is incredibly important in Havoc, but it cannot win you the game. And multiple people playing the stall role doesn't do anything. For that reason, I don't think you can make the argument for Arbiter being the best class in the game anymore. Well, I hope you agree, and I hope you learned something. See you later.